Considerations. Let's look at the broader picture with David Kennedy, who is the Chief Executive of the Climate Change Committee. He's with me in the studio. And John Hofmeister, who is the former President, US President of Shale and the founder and Chief Executive of Citizens for Affordable Energy. And you're certainly getting more affordable energy in the United States as a result of fracking, Mr. Hofmeister?
Well, in fact, we don't even know yet how large the resource is, because as the technology improves, we just continue to increase the reserve ratio that's available to us. So it is quite a bountiful supply of future energy.
And at the moment, bills are about half what they were. The cost of gas is about half what it was.
It's actually below the cost of production right now, which means that many drilling rigs have shut down, waiting for gas prices to recover because they can't otherwise, make the money they need to make to keep drilling.
So it can't all be perfect.
No, and in fact, the importance of fracking, and let's remember it's been around 40-plus years, and was a process that was actually initiated by the United States Department of Energy through its research capabilities. And the industry has been working on the process of perfecting it ever more, so that it provides less and less risk as we look at the technologies that are being used going forward. And I heard the speaker before say the regulatory regime is very important, and that's absolutely right. The regulatory regime is critically important so that wells are well-engineered, well-constructed, and that they perform according to the designs. And people who try to cheat, cut corners, do it with bad designs where there might be leakages of methane or leakages of water, that's unacceptable.
And you have had cases in the United States where water sources have been polluted.
Well, there are still debates over whether that is the case or not. The Environmental Protection Agency has been doing a number of studies. There is a lot of anecdotal suggestion that has occurred, but so far the Environmental Protection Agency has really declared those investigative sites not really proven yet. And so there are fears, however, and as long as there are fears, the problem needs to be addressed.
And the other big environmental issue, and this is where you come in, David Kennedy, is the effect on climate change. You've produced a report yourself on the gas, and you are concerned that actually it could be a rather perverse effect in this country, where we might have to pay more on our energy bills because of climate change charges, in effect, carbon taxes.
Good morning. Yeah,
Good morning.
That's right. So what we do in our report today is we look at energy bills. We look at what's happened with energy bills and what's likely to happen in the future. Our focus is low carbon policies. So if you look at what's happened, we ask, why is the energy price and the energy bill so high today? Energy bills have gone up for the typical household by about £450 in recent years, and that's mainly because of changes in the gas price. It's partly because of investments in the grid, and there's a very small component of that is because of low carbon policies. If you look forward, the government here is committed actually to investing in a portfolio of low carbon technologies, so renewable power generation, nuclear, carbon capture and storage, and we estimate that on that path out to 2020 the low carbon policies will add about £40 to the typical household bill in 2015. That will increase to about £100 by 2020, and after that increases are very limited. And then we've said, well, consider an alternative path. What if we had this dash for gas that people are talking increasingly about?
The Chancellor of the Exchequer, for one.
Yeah, and the key points there are, well, think about the gas price. Actually, although gas prices have gone down in the States, the consensus projection is that gas prices will go up in Europe, notwithstanding shale gas.
Well, but you can't really make that assumption, can you? Because you don't know how much is there and how much of it
There's
will
a
be
high
able to
degree of
get
uncertainty.
out.
There's a high degree of uncertainty. But what you can be more confident about is that gas is carbon intense, and this is overlooked by
not as much as coal or oil.
It's not as carbon intense as coal, but you cannot tackle risks of dangerous climate change with a gas-based power system. Now, because it's carbon intense, because we have carbon budgets here, because we have carbon caps in Europe, there is a price on carbon. That price will go up over time.
Yeah.
And gas-fired power generation will become increasingly expensive, and what we've done is estimate how expensive could it become over time.
But you're looking at it from just that one perspective, aren't you? I mean,
I think there's two aspects of it. One is the price aspect, how much will it cost to get the gas out of the ground, and then there's the carbon aspect, what is the carbon price penalty of that gas. But let me give you the figure, John, there. The figure is, if we proceed down that path, we're at risk of a bill increase up to £600 for the typical household. So compare that to the £100 on the low carbon path. You can pay £100 now, you can insure against a £600 increase in the future. That is a sensible proposition to most people.
Except that you're disregarding the effect of very cheap, and we got the American experience to support this, of very cheap gas from fracking. And surely that is going to bring down the cost. I mean, it really is perverse, isn't it, to say, OK, you've got all this cheap gas underground. Whether we can get it out in the way the Americans have done remains to be seen, of course. But there remains that strong possibility that we will have a lot more gas, cheap gas, available to us in the years to come than we had before.
We shouldn't exaggerate that.
Well, all right.
And the reason we shouldn't exaggerate it, although there is a lot of shale gas in the States, there isn't a lot to export into Europe. There isn't thought to be a lot in Europe.
Well, we heard from Professor Alistair Fraser of Imperial College an hour ago that it could be as much as a quarter of our gas supply, another quarter, and that is a substantial amount, and that would mean that the cost could come down.
Well,
it's a bit perverse.
That would be great if it is a quarter. I mean, bear in mind that most of the gas we use in this country is for heat, not for power generation. We'll continue to use gas for heat.
No, but
right
it'll replace something else. I mean, if we've got more energy coming into the mix, one way or the other, the overall price of that energy is going to fall, isn't it? Obviously, it's a law of supply and demand.
That is not what the consensus projections are. So at the European level, it is thought by the International Energy Agency that optimistically shale gas, so fracked gas, could account for about 10% of the total, 10 to 15%. It can't change the price of gas in Europe if that's the case.